Whether you work in documentary, broadcast, or corporate video, chances are you'll need to harness the power of historical images in one of your productions. Oftentimes these images contain several types of damage: fading, physical damage, as well as missing chunks from the image. Let's learn how we can harness the full suite of Photoshop tools to restore a historical image. So this image is a great example of fixing a historical image, and I can always do it better, but we're going to do the down and dirty fix. Let's go ahead and peel the skin of the onion back and take a look at what we did here. At the top is a HueSaturation adjustment layer, and this is colorizing the image, adding the consistent sepia tone. This next layer has restored proper contrast from this point. Down here, we've gone ahead and worked out most of the blemishes and cracks that were in the image. But our first priority is to get rid of the gaping holes. So as you see here, it's really like a triage approach. You have to fix the biggest damage first in order to restore a historical photo. In the case of this photo, the biggest problem is the fact that large portions of the image are simply missing. Let's go ahead and fix this image here. I'm just going to throw away these previous fixes, and I'll delete those, and we've got our background layer. I'll press Command-J to duplicate that, and let's go ahead and start. Now, in order to fill in these large gaping holes, we need to use the Clone Stamp tool. You cannot heal areas that are completely missing. To get a larger brush, I'm going to press the right bracket key, or I can come over to the brush area here and adjust the diameter and the hardness. The lower the hardness number, the softer the brush. Let's go ahead and Option or Alt click to set a sample point, and we'll start to clone in. Don't be afraid to frequently Option click again to reset your sample point so you get a little bit of variety in the pattern. This way it won't look like you simply moved this area to this area. So I'll frequently resample and click to produce a little bit of randomness. There we go. That major hole's filled in, and let's go ahead and zoom in here down below, and we'll do the same. Now I'm going to need to use a smaller brush here because of the tight area, so I'll press the left bracket key to shrink that down, and I'll Option click and begin to paint. There we go. And that is fixed. We can always use the navigator up here to get a good global view of the image, and we can use this to adjust the size. That's looking pretty good to me. We've got the large gaping holes fixed. Let's go ahead and just clean up this right edge a little bit here, and we'll Option click and paint, and we're just sampling that edge to clean it up a little bit. There we go. That's pretty good. And stage one is solved. Now, our next problem involves these cracks here, and we need to fill these in. Now, your first reaction would be to take a look at the healing brush. And Photoshop offers two, a spot healing brush and a normal healing brush. The spot healing brush just automatically samples from pixels around, and that works pretty well if the subject is free and clear, and you can use that to do cracks here. But as you get really close to things like fabric, notice it didn't do quite as good of a job, so I'll press undo. The regular healing brush allows you to choose the sample point, just like the Clone Stamp tool. You Option click to set the point, and then you can come in here and really be precise. And this does a great job of both cloning and blending. There we go. Now, I'm going to rely upon a little different trick to fix these cracks. I'm a big fan of taking the smudge tool, which is located here with the blur tool. And it has different modes. If you change it to darken mode, it will allow you to push the dark pixels. And we can push that in. We can adjust the strength setting here. Let's go to about 35% there. And this will act just like digital concealer. And I can now follow the curves of the fabric and push this in. I like to use the smudge tool here, especially when there's fabric involved with patterns. And notice how by smudging and following the folds and shadows of the fabric, I can go ahead and fill things in, and it looks very believable. There we go. Let's follow the curves here in the pants. Looks good. Come over here to the lapel and do the same thing. Good. Now the shirt here is a little trickier. There we go. On the shirt, we're going to need to push this up for the vest. There we go. And now push that down for the lapel. And let's work on the tie first. There we go. And now I think we need to get into some lighten mode, which will allow us to push the lighter pixels around. That's pretty good. And let's go ahead and use the clone stamp tool and zoom in quite a bit. Now it's important that you scan your photos at high enough resolution because that will allow you to zoom in more. Here we go, clone stamp tool, really small brush. Let's option click up here and paint that in. Good. And we're just sampling from adjacent pixels to try to fill in some of the blemishes. That's pretty good there. Let's do the tie. There we go. Fill in the missing shirt. We can sample from one side to fill in the rest. That's good. And let's just take the blur tool and soften that up just a little bit so it's a little more believable. Good. Let's zoom out. And it looks like we pretty much got that. There's a few little blemishes in here that we can quickly get. Let's come down here and we'll just get rid of the seam. Let's go ahead and use the healing brush. Option click to set the sample point and drag. Good. Do the same right here on this jacket. Good. Option click in a free clear area and go over the blemishes. And notice how Photoshop takes those right out. You just need to option click on a sample point that's similar to the pixel data that you want to use. There we go. And we'll take that right out. Get this little purple spot here. And I think we did pretty good there. Yep. A couple more cracks. Let's just option click and follow that blemish. By the way, this works great on human skin if you've got wrinkles you need to take out, if you're just doing some retouching. And I think we got it. Yep. Well, I'm a perfectionist. I see two spots. Let's go here, grab our smudge tool with darken mode, and we'll just push that fabric in to heal that blemish. There we go. And there was one more over here, a couple little spots of dust. Good. And that's just about right. Let's go to lighten mode, and we'll push the lighter pixels in. And there you have it. We could spend all day perfecting, but I think that's pretty good at this point. Let's go ahead and duplicate that layer one more time, and I'm going to strip the color out. Image, adjustments, desaturate. And that just gets rid of all the color. We did that because we need to just work on contrast. And if there is no color, it'll be easy to fix contrast. I'm going to do that with a levels adjustment, Command L for levels, and notice the giant gaps of information. All we need to do now is simply pull that black slider over to where the blacks begin, and the white slider over to where the whites begin, and adjust the midpoint to find the proper contrast, and click OK. Let's go ahead and hit undo to toggle that. From that to that. Pretty big change on contrast, right? Let's go ahead and finish this out. We'll add a hue saturation adjustment layer. And as long as I click the colorize box, it'll actually tint the layer below. We can now simply roll the hue wheel till we find the color that we want for the layer. I'll go with a sepia tone, a little bit orangey there. Adjust the saturation and the lightness of that sepia tone layer, and click OK. One of the benefits of using the hue saturation adjustment layer is if you have multiple images, you can go ahead and fix them. I'm just going to open up one more historical photo. There we go. And let's make sure that this is in the same color mode of RGB. And now we could take that hue saturation adjustment layer and drag and drop. And notice we have a consistent sepia tone across both images. Historical restoration is a fairly straightforward process, but it requires you to think creatively and diagnose problems. Remember, fix the biggest problems first, and then twiddle to your heart's content as long as your budget allows.